We're delighted to be joined by Thomas Jordan. He is the president for the SNB. Thank you so much, Mr. Jordan, for speaking to Bloomberg TV. Now, U.S.-Iran tensions have eased. It seems that political risk has eased. And yet, the Swiss franc is still much higher than it was. It's climbed versus the yen. It's climbed also versus the euro. What does this tell you about the real status of the Swiss franc?
Well, we still have a highly valued Swiss franc. We had already a trend since a couple of months that the Swiss franc is strengthening. So for us, it's important to maintain our monetary policy. That means having the negative interest rates of minus 75 basis points, but also the willingness to intervene if necessary on forex markets.
But how much more can you intervene?
Well, everything that is necessary. So we have a mandate to maintain price stability in Switzerland. So we're looking at markets very carefully. So monetary conditions in Switzerland are determined both by interest rates and by the exchange rate. So we're looking at both, and if necessary, then we take the necessary decisions.
But the U.S. has put you on a currency manipulator watch list. Does that impact the ability for you to intervene?
No, we are in a very good dialogue with the Americans, and we have to explain the situation. We have to see that the current account surplus is overstated by the way the statistics are set up. So, and we have also very low inflation in Switzerland. So we have at the moment zero inflation, and it's necessary that we can use the instrument to maintain a reasonable monetary policy in Switzerland.
But do the U.S., you said you're talking to the U.S., do they understand your perspective?
Well, we explain it very carefully, and they have a good understanding about the specific situation of Switzerland.
Does it worry investors if the U.S., you know, I don't know if you took calls when this happened on the currency manipulator list. No. Does it worry investors, and do you think it hurts your credibility?
It shouldn't, because we can explain that very well. We do not manipulate the currency, but we have to intervene in order to steer monetary conditions in Switzerland. So what is very important, we never intend to weaken the Swiss franc to get an advantage over other countries, but rather we have to avoid that the Swiss franc becomes too strong, so that we have a deflationary environment in Switzerland.
And so there's an open dialogue with Treasury?
There's an open dialogue with the Treasury, also with the Fed regarding the specific situation.
We're seeing the spread between Swiss government bonds and German government bonds actually widen. What's happening?
Well, these are relatively small variations, so it goes from 1 month to the other a little bit in both directions. But what we have is, of course, a much smaller interest rate differential today than it used to be. And this is exactly one of the key reasons why we have to have negative interest rates in Switzerland.
Under what circumstances could you actually cut interest rates further?
Well, we always do a cost-benefit analysis. We still have the room to cut rates if necessary, but of course we know there are also side effects, so we look very carefully what is necessary in a cost-benefit analysis, in a risk management way, and then we decide what is best in order to have the optimal monetary conditions here in Switzerland. What
side effect do you worry about the most? Is it political, you know, could it go to savers actually being really fed up and political unrest, or is it just the banks?
Well, it's a little bit everything. So there's a big debate about negative interests in Switzerland. We have to explain why they have to be negative in Switzerland. We have to see that the small saver so far is not impacted by negative rates, because usually saving deposits pay zero interest rate, not negative. But of course, there's a debate also about pension funds. But it is very important to see what would be the alternative. So what would happen if the Swiss National Bank raised interest rates back to zero, and I think the overall impact on on Switzerland itself, but also on the Swiss economy, would be more negative than the status quo.
There's speculation that the SNB could implement a new mechanism, right, like new exchange rates. What are the pros and cons of that?
Of a minimum exchange rate, or?
Yeah, of basically what, you know, defending some kind of cap.
No, well, no. At the moment, we have the system that we have. We believe this is the right one, so we have a certain flexibility. Also, the exchange rate is not fixed. But of course, the exchange rate is a very important determinant of monetary conditions in Switzerland. So we take that into account, and we intervene, or we set the interest rate appropriately.
So you wouldn't see another minimum exchange rate?
Not at this moment. So the system is flexible, and it was the right one. So we could steer the Swiss economy through very difficult waters over the last couple of years.
Thomas Jordan, thank you so much for your time.